Welcome, Victor. Welcome,
Thanks,
welcome, welcome.
guys. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. As Jane has mentioned, I don't need to go any further. I also want to let us know that I also run the Q Platform Consultancy and the Wakandagility.com, an international support group for all of us in practice and those that are trying to get into the industry. Okay.
Before you get started, sorry, I forgot to mention that, but I just wanted to share with everyone. We will take questions at the end. So if you have questions, you can drop it in the chat box, but make sure you title it question so that when we're looking through the chat box for the question, we know the question. We separate the questions from the comments just in case.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's it. Take it away.
Thanks, Jane. Okay. Right. So the topic today, I think it's a bit of a mouthful, but I think most of you have got the gist by now. It's about understanding the norm in the West against the African corporate culture. We're going to be analyzing that gap and using our insight from what we have learned to kind of, look at approaches that are available for us as agile coaches, enterprise agile coaches, scrum masters, and business leaders. Okay. So this is like a master class. We're not going to start defining scrum or anything like that. Which is the understanding that most of you understand where we are, understand the influence of culture over what we do. And having said that, I will go over a few things in a summarized high-level fashion before I hit explaining the model itself. After that, we then look at the approaches that are available. We look at the R.A.T.S, the R.A.T.S being the various blockers that we see existing in our African culture that are not being talked about or not even heard of. Not even one is a paradox, because if you tell most people in the West about it, they'll most probably laugh and say they don't believe you. But we that live or have been in Africa know what the struggle is all about, how real it is. Okay, so this is I was told we need to have a quote. I found this very direct to what we're trying to say here. This is from this chap, Bobby Author. This is a screenwriter. He makes those films with poetry about race and cultures and all that kind of stuff. He makes controversial films in Hollywood. This is 1950s, 1960s kind of films. I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember. So I think that kind of rhymed with what we're trying to do here, because we are supposed to be looking at the intrinsic and harnessing the intrinsic value in our cultural differences. So this is saying cultural differences should not separate us from each other, but rather cultural diversity brings a collective strength that can benefit all of humanity. So in Agile, we are all about value. And in Agile, when we are transforming cultures and mindsets, it is a good thing to know the forces, the cultural forces acting on those people in the organization and acting on those teams that you are taking through their journey. The other aspects regarding the importance of culture is because of the VUCA environment that we live in now. We know that the organizations that will survive or that are surviving and thriving now are those organizations that are agile. This is why what we do is very popular right now. So, and the agile, when we take this agile thing and trying to change mindsets, we now go back to the culture of the organization that is existing so that we can design our processes, our approach, our playbook. And so if you take it a bit higher up, you now realize that the forces acting on the people in the organization are different types, right? You have the internal one and you have the external, but we'll talk about this when we get to the model. So these are what we're going to be looking at. And because culture is so important, and we need to, the entire idea and the point of the model itself is to showcase and to inform the industry itself, which is Western based, that if you're coming to Africa or Middle East to transform and create, transform cultures for agile sake and transform mindsets of teams, you need to be aware of all these particular specific um, cultural differences and disparities from where you are coming from, which is the typical Western environment. We know that the forefathers that showed us, that created the manifesto for us, and the 12 principles behind the manifesto, they definitely I want to think about Africa when we are um, creating these things. They not that they were a bit funny or racist. It's just that they were dealing with their main concerns. And like everything we Africans have gotten, we've taken from the West. Okay, so it's the normal pattern of creating knowledge and discovery for anything that is of benefit for the world. Okay, so behold, this is the model. I try to make it as simple as I can, as rustic as I can. I'm slightly dyslexic, so I'm happy that I've got a lot of feedback from it. People understand it, and it makes sense to them. And yeah, we we I got my method for the data for this. It's a bit rustic. It's a bit old school. I did a lot of surveys. Well, not a lot. I was talking to two organizations, guys from two organizations in Ghana, two from Nigeria, one from South Africa, and one from Dubai. It's a lot of talking face to face and emailing there about using what we can to get the data. But and this is how we kind of created and certified and qualified our hypothesis, right? So like I said before, this is A.P.I.A.M. R.A.T.S. The A.P.I.A.M stands for Agile Practice in Africa and the Middle East. The R.A.T.S, which is quite convenient, being that they are blockers, is the arrow goes for religious intrusion, age, respect paradox, timekeeping tradition, and secret cult. I know the secret cult there and the religious intrusion are a bit dramatic, but you will soon see, as you can see some of you laughing, you can still see why, especially to our Western friends here, why that the drama was needed. It is as you're seeing and thinking, it is that way in reality. So this I'm going to explain, summarize version so I don't waste our time on it. At a high level, this is just showing basically the various organizations and the way they deal with agile transformation, their journey, right? And if you can see there, if I shift it starts here. It starts on the row column there. It's on the row, it's the different organizations and their journeys. And on the column sections is like I said before, the forces, the kind of cultural forces acting on them. We know about the internal culture. We can create that ourselves. Organizations and leaders can foster that. But there's also this bad boy here, the external culture that acts on everybody that comes from that local culture, but it's hidden. It sometimes shows itself in various forms, but it's always there. Even if we're in a closed, controlled environment as the organization, this character, this culture shows itself in our character, especially when we are under extreme circumstances or where we are being challenged, right? Our true character shows. And this, if they are bad or bad habits on the negative side, it's going to affect the aggregate collective culture on the way we think, being that culture affects our mindset, right? So if you look at this one here, the top one, it's called Western. You got all that. This is the typical organization, Western organization, right? Like anyone, Microsoft, Google. They say they do everything the agile way, Western way. So it's your typical. So that's coded blue. So you go, if you're an agile coach, you're an agile leader, business leader, or scrum master, you will go through the normal pain and the normal journey, do your playbook. It's typical. Then you then have what I call the atypical number one. Um, these are organizations in Africa and the Middle East, but they are Western companies. They are usually IT companies, like, for example, Facebook Nigeria. These guys come in, the young guys, they recruit young people, usually knowledge workers, usually very educated, very driven. So they don't have a problem in inculcating them into the agile mindset. Yeah, this is the kind of organization you really want to work with or work for when you are taking them through a transformation process, because the people there, although they are African, they are driven, they accept the Western way of doing things because they have to get paid. But as African, they are able and they are young to suppress those negative aspects, and a win-win being that they also will take those positive African aspects. Not everything in Africa is bad. In fact, most things in our culture is very good. We then take it and blend it with our Western and try as much as possible to get a win-win value circumstance for ourselves. So that's what this is all about. So I've painted it yellow to make it's a happy color there. And this is where the hybrid zone, where you can kind of design it based on the circumstances you're meeting there, you're confronted with. So now the last organization here is what this is all about. This here is the pain and the really, really, the real, what we say, cocoa of the matter. You know, this is a typical African organization, and the military, the ministries, academic organizations, hospitals, and all those. Yeah, these guys are they are African in every way. The way they behave, the way they do things. Even though they may be speaking English at work, they are still Africans, and you have all those complicated um, uh, issues that arise itself when you're trying to bring a Western agile transformation in a typical African organization, yeah, where the internal culture is African, the external culture is African. So bringing a Western thing there, there's no space for it there. It becomes complicated. And this is the reason why we need to understand the A.P.I.A.M rats. This particular role here, this kind of organization, the organization of Atypical 2, creates a complex environment, complex kind of an angst exists in the atmosphere when you bring in a fully Western uh, culture into their African, the existing local culture, right? African or Mediterranean, yeah. So I put the hybrid zone here because anything can happen here. You can define and change it the best way you can, especially this middle one here. It's the utopian circumstance here where it's a win-win. You take the best of Western and the best of African. So that is basically it. That's the structure of the model. It's your typical organization in the West, your typical organization in Africa or Middle East, and a form of utopian level organization that comes in with this Western thing, takes in young people, takes in young knowledge workers. They are driven. They don't want to lose their job. They're excited because they are the new middle class in Africa, in a place that have struggled with the middle class for a long time. They haven't had middle class for over a decade. You're paying them serious money, and they're happy. They're different, so they wouldn't mind to suppress their ugly African culture. And in some cases, because we are teaching them and we are bringing in agile, progressive mindset, way of thinking, they will start understanding which to blend in hybrid, to blend to create a win-win situation for them to achieve their goal and make their journey as easy as possible. I hope that makes sense to all of you. If you still need any explanation, you can contact me or go to the website and read some more. So the R.A.T.S parts of the model is just, these are just words I was just playing with, and it just ended up to form R.A.T, and they say, yeah, good. R.A.T, we think of R.A.T, we think of bugs, we have vermin. They're not good because as agile coaches, we know what blockers are. And so I'm tying that to this. The first one is religious intrusion. As I've said before, the other one is age respect paradox. Third one is time-keeping tradition, and the fourth one is secrecy cults, the openness in Africa. And this many Westerners will find it very, very funny, very difficult to understand, but Africans know what this is. Just for some reason, I don't know why we keep secrets and we hold on to information and we don't share. There is a fifth one right now that I have, the results are now coming and I'm experimenting with, because this model is very dynamic. It's a living model, it's very organic. As we move forward, we are discovering more things. This one here, the fifth one, is language. I've not added it to the model yet, but I thought I would launch it here for you guys. I mean, we're talking about knowledge. If it's happening, we are knowing as we get them. So we are seeing results, and it's very intriguing and very interesting when I explain it to you, but I've just added that one there as a fixed element for those blockers. Okay, that's this is me trying to be funny. These are all my cartoons, and I've had all the jokes from my friends. I showed first. This is the religious intrusion one. So what it is really, for some reason, Africa is now buzzed with religion. Now, religion everywhere, especially the evangelical religion. And with all due respect, it is now found itself into the corporate culture of Africa, right? I don't want to mention Middle East in this case because theirs is a different case, and I'll mention that later on, but it's a different ball game altogether. So we have situations where, you know, you have religious people. I've heard stories of people now, they now have prayer meetings in board meetings, right? They now pray before every single meeting. They now have sessions where a full service actually takes place for 30 minutes before they do what they want to do on work time, right? Anybody that's an accountant here, we know what that means. You're losing return on investment. And as agilists, we all know we are losing money, and that's a no-no, right? That's muda in lean terms, and that's a complete waste. So as an agile coach, your instinct is to go, right, this thing, this is not what we want. This is not what is agile. This is not the way we do it. We're wasting time. Like the guy here is now saying, this is a scrum master, poor chap, has gathered the team together, and he goes, hey guys, time for our daily stand-up. And the PO, this could have been anybody. I apologize to any product owner here. This could have been anybody in the team. And I go, great, yes, okay, but let's start with a prayer. Now, the problem with this is that in a time box methodology or framework like Scrum, this is a big problem. We have only 15 minutes. A typical stand-up meeting will take you 15 minutes. And you're not telling us to take 1-2 minutes for that. You see where that is going to cause a kind of angst for, say, our Mr. Western guy that is now the Scrum Master or the Agile coach in an African organization, where somebody in the organization on the team is now telling them, no, we need to pray first. Okay, so this is obviously not the way, but here's the kicker. It may look as if it is bad, but what I found, and this really took me time because countless hours on, what I found is, what if the team, their bonding is helped by the prayer they do, the religiousness of the whole thing? What is because they are religious now, it has added to their bonding. If you remember, these people come from different. Africa has what 360 different ethnic groups, where tribalism reigns supreme, and all of a sudden, this guy is the prayer meeting, and the prayer is bonding them together and helping them to gel and to trust one another. All those lovely things we want in an agile team, and it's helping them to do that. Okay, so this is one of those things where the on first sight it looks like waste. It looks like a muda. It looks like no. This is not agile. Until you start to think about it, until you spend time with the team, you then realize that although it's taking 5 minutes from their 15 minutes in the time box framework, it shouldn't happen. But as an agile coach, as a scrum master, we should all be pragmatic and we should all deal with the circumstance that we meet in the kitchen. Yeah. So for example, especially if you're a startup team where you need to get early wins, quick wins, because you're a startup, the money is restricted, is limited, is actually the the main constraint. So you need early wins, and all of a sudden you come in here and this guy is talking about prayers. You don't want to go and disrupt that kind of bond that has already been established. That will even complicate and make your journey even worse. So in a pragmatic way, or looking at it from a pragmatic point of view, it is best, albeit a non-agile process or not a blocker in agile terms, it is best to allow that to happen. Then as they mature, you systematically take it off. You can do your retrospective, you can do your brown bag session and tell them about how the return on investment that they are losing and how they are wasting time in a very time box environment of process is not adding value whatsoever. Use track it, do metrics for it, and track and show them as evidence. Right? Agile is a very empiric, evidence-driven process. So show them all these things so that over the time, over as they become mature, this habit now changes. And this is a very good, I thought, is a very good way of making them effective teams as they mature. It is not a good idea to disrupt people that are already brought together from various tribes, already brought together, already bonding and working as a team because they have 5 minutes. Yeah, extend your stand up. Okay, nothing. People I've seen 20-minute stand ups. Okay, you work with what you've got. As long as you are delivering value, right? That's fine. Okay, so that's that one there. How many of you know who this woman is? I have not continued to number two. I have brought that language on because I really want to make that point before we go. But this woman is,
Sophia Luole, Professor
yes,
Sophia.
thank you. I love you, man. Thank you so much. I'm doing this, I'm dedicating it to her because we used to have a professor called Abimbola in University of Ife. I was one of his students. This lady is a professor of Yoruba philosophy, Ifa and all that. I think they used to call her Yanifa or something like that. And she's passed now. But the reason why I'm talking about her is that she's one of those people that have been driving that idea, that is proposing the idea of using our native tongue for 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 in the academics circles, right? What we have in Africa, because of our colonial heritage, we are the only people, even Asians, learn from early age with their own mother tongue, with their own native Hindi. Huh? Uh, I think it's only in Africa we need to waste 2 to 3 years to 5 years learning and mastering the English language, then before we start using the English language to learn other things like history or chemistry or whatever. She and some other guys are proposing the idea that let's can the English language for a while. Let's take the English language like any other English language, like the way we do French. Let's can it for a while and let's start speaking teaching our kids mathematics and all that with our native tongue. If there is a Yoruba base, yeah, teach mathematics through Yoruba, Igbo, whatever, Twi, Ashanti, Zulu. Use those language, those mother tongue to teach them. You will find that these people learn faster with the mother tongue. They are comfortable with that language and they learn, then learn English later on. And this is what maybe perhaps that's what makes the Asians better at what they do. I don't know, but this is something for us to think about. And because from the data I've been getting now, it seems that it is a very important aspect we must look into in driving value in our organizations, right? So let me get this out of the way. We are, where we use our mother tongue. If you have a team in, for instance, Enugu, an Igbo-based team, converse with Igbo in your team, when you're working together, when you are in your war room, when you are collaborating together. Forget English, right? Converse with your Igbo language, converse with your Ashanti language, because people become themselves when they are comfortable, when they are talking to you with they don't have to think and layer the words, because it just flows because their mother tongue, right? So I push this thing through some few organizations, one in South Africa and one in Nigeria, and the data I've been getting has been fantastic. And I mean, I will implore you guys to, those of you at work and those of you taking organizations through journey, to experiment with this and get back to me, because I'm very, very keen to see if this hypothesis is a solid something, it's a solid thing, or it's a fluke. But I think it is what it is, and we are seeing fantastic news and reports coming back to us. So what we are getting is that these two teams, they've let loose, forget about the English, let's talk, especially in retrospective. What I found interesting was that they started seeing members of the team that they thought were introverted. They now came out of their shell. They now became introverted, extroverted. And this is what we want in a team. Everybody contributing, everybody talking, because we need to create a safe place of trust. How do you get trust when everybody's not engaging? So I think this Professor Sophie has got something here. This is something we should start practicing, and we should drive even in our various countries in Africa. Okay, because it works. It makes people at ease. It makes things happen. People now express themselves better. We are, according to Fela Nicola Poputi, we are linguistically virile. We could say one word and it would mean 5 things. People can express themselves in various nuances by just few sentences. And I think we cannot allow that kind of value in our language to just fly by, because we are copying everything from the West. And this is one of those things that advantages that we need to imbibe in ourselves. It's a win-win thing, and we use it to advance our progress through that journey, through that agile journey that we are in. I hope this makes sense. If you guys will try this experiment, I'm very, very happy. Get in touch with me. I am looking for people that are driving teams at the moment that will take this on board and experiment. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? I think you will enjoy it yourself. Anything, let me know. So that's that for language, for native language. And yeah, the second one, which I jumped, the second R.A.T was age respect paradox. It's a paradox because it sounds very cute when you tell the Western people. They see us giving ourselves respect and we are bowing our head and we are giving references to Westerners like that a lot. They say, yeah, you guys a lot of respect for people. What it becomes an issue at work, and I'm sure many of you have encountered, many of you based in Africa, or many of you that grew up in Africa, or many of you that have engaged African companies, or even in Mediterranean nations, you have this issue there as well. So this is this. There's always one in the team. I was told you have this guy that comes in and is saying to the team, I've exaggerated the beard, they're not that old, so I'm just trying to make a point there. Don't allocate tasks to me. I am older than you all, and I will tell you what tasks to work on. Okay, in most teams, most agile teams, they rotate the scrum master the Scrum Master role, which is a very good thing to do for a very mature Agile team. And then when we also think of Agile teams, we should not confine ourselves to IT teams, because this is the future now. We're not talking about business agility. We're now going to Agile marketing, Agile HR. So yes, so you can see he's saying, I'm older than you, I should lead the team. Every team has one of these people, and I think I have a colleague called Shoba that's talking about one of our people that was saying the same thing too, that the guy was so uncomfortable, we can't give him instruction. I had a report as well from a project management, a project in Central Bank in Nigeria, where the project manager couldn't give instructions and couldn't allocate tasks because the oldest guy there had an issue with the whole thing, and he was complaining about, why are you giving me orders? And he's translated the allotment of tasks to orders, and he took offense to that. So all these little things will cause a lot of angst. You see my guy here putting his hand in his head. Oh, here we go again. The angst is already there. And because these guys are conflated, they have this external factor, external culture pressing heavily on them to agree and align their behavior to his desires. But at the back of their mind, they're saying, especially the young ones, this is a place of work. There's no place for things like that. So that angst is there. Okay. So this is one of those, this is particularly bad. There are no jack in the box value for it, surprise value there. And this is something where, it need to be approached in a very delicate manner. At the same time, you need to make sure that you're doing what you need to do in the agile way to promote and show them that there is merit. Roles are not given out of age by age; they are given by merit. Value is not prioritized, or things are not prioritized based on how old they are, but by the value they bring into the organization. So start like that. Create brown bag sessions where you can train and talk about all these kind of things. Talk about it in your retrospective and try to kill it. That one is a real blocker, and it must go. It tends to happen in a lot of not military ministries in Nigeria, right? Especially in Nigeria, the report I got is coming from an agile business agility experiment in a ministry in Nigeria, where you have all these middle-aged people, but they are set in their ways. It becomes a particular problem where, out of experiences, the only person that knows how to maintain the code for the mainframe, because he's that old. So you now need to start building a kind of transfer strategy where he shares this knowledge using the agile mindset line, for him to start sharing this message 1 hour a day or 1 hour a week, where he sits down with the team and transfers this knowledge without making him feel that he's going to lose something. Okay, so these are the various approaches that are available in dealing with those kind of things, because those kind of challenges. So that's the age respect paradox right there. So this one, I think everybody knows about it. What I find, I don't know that to be ashamed of it or to be proud of it. What I find weird about this is so common, it has a name. I was in France a few years back, and this lady was, we don't do African time here. That she was telling me that because she saw me being an African guy. She's a friend of mine. She's not, but she said we don't do African time here. So it has now become international. We are now recognized as Africans that we run late deliberately with style. The French do it, but I don't think they do it in their corporate environment. They do it in social circles, but this has become something in our lives. In all of us that grew up in Africa, we know what I'm talking about. If you are trying to you got an engagement, you're going to take an organization through that journey as an enterprise agile coach, you must be very aware of African time. If you don't, you have a very, very rude awakening. Okay, so this is bad. There are no, I don't have any other solution for it. It is bad. It needs to go under a list of things that you need to inculcate in the mindset of the team going through that agile journey. So that's it. It's bad. It needs to go. Okay. Let me quickly run because of time. Now, this one here, the secrecy call, this is about openness. And this is basically something that comes from tribalism. Is tied to the various tribes in Africa. And if somebody say, yeah, because we have too many, yeah, I will tell you, go to Asia too. They have many languages and many ethnic groups. Okay, but they work and cooperate together. They form teams, valuable teams, working teams, collaborative teams, right? So in Africa, I don't know whether it is as a consequence of colonialism, the particular kind of colonialism that was vested on Africans themselves. I don't know. I don't know whether it's because of the way, maybe perhaps it's the sun that cultivate that makes us become independent. Yeah, because we can pick a coconut on the way and we don't need a team. I don't know. So this, for some reason, we set ourselves off for failure when we behave in such ways. I have not been able to display this the way I want to display it, but you can see my terrible drawing here. I've tried to show 4 aspects I recognize myself. These are teams that box themselves in the world. This is a rhetorical box of that internal closure, like a kind of knowledge silo, right? So these ones are tribalism cults. These guys in red there, maybe they are Igbos. This one here, they are Ashantis. They go to place of work in the ministry. You see them at lunchtime. They hop about together. They share knowledge together. They have an exam somebody want to do, and they say, oh, it's going to give promotion. They share that thing within themselves. They are not talking to each other. That thing is not cross-functional. They may have cross-functional from the team might be cross-functional from different departments, but the main thing that brings them together is because they come from the same place, they speak the same language. That is wrong in an agile team. Very, very wrong. Okay. The other one is title code. This is so very obvious. I think it's also happened in the West as well, but not to the extent we have in Africa, where managers and supervisors, yeah, I won't talk to you, I won't share information with you because I'm your manager. I won't talk to you, or I will not open my door for you guys. You have only you come to my office at 2 o'clock when I have time for you guys because I'm a supervisor. All those kind of calls, all the kind of mental mindset that ties their tie to a siloed psychological convent where it's only I recognize you because you're a fellow manager. Okay, it happens. We don't talk about it, but it happens. The other one here is what I think many of you will recognize. This one is the cult of individualism. It is just me for myself. This chap, I think all of us have in the early before Agile came in, when we were playing with project management and the hybridization that occurred just before Agile came into the scene big time, between normal traditional project to pure agile frameworks and methodologies. There is always a chap like this in a team, in a project team. He's not a team player at all. He's some of them mostly intelligent. He keeps his knowledge to himself because he wants to advance himself and so on and so forth. Then everybody knows this guy. This guy exists in every team. He is a person that wants to keep to himself by virtue of what the definition of what team playing and team is. He is not a team player. If you ask him, he say, "Yeah, I work alone. Everybody are holding me back. They're all stupid. They're holding me back." Or the thing is that he just wants to advance himself for himself. There's nothing bad in having that for yourself, but in terms of teams and working together, there's added value when you have teams. When you have cross-functional team working together, you have more value for the organization, not for yourself. So these are one of those this is one of the R.A.T.S that you need to take them through an agile process as well. Take them through retrospective. We talk about the value. You can organize, ask the managers to put the budget down and take the team to a team building session off site, off campus. Yeah, go and do all those things, all those funny things. You have a team building consultants burn your money, but it adds value. It emphasizes the need to act as teams, especially in an agile environment. So that, I hope that makes sense to you guys. The other thing I wanted to say regarding this and making the teams effective is a borrowed technique from I got from Agile HR, right? So in Agile HR, they've literally killed the what's it called it, this emulation where they give people money for performance, right? They've literally killed that, and they instead reward the team. They killed corporate rewards, right? Individual rewards. They for exceptional whatever achievement. Literally killed that, and then now because of agile team mindset, they now reward the team rather than just one person, which makes sense because the team is more driven. Yeah, we all get the pay, we all get the bonus if we all perform so and so and so and so. So it kind of buttresses that fact as well. So that is an idea to look at. And yeah, I think that's about it for that. If you don't understand or you want me to explain that more, you know how to get to me. Okay, so we seem to have come to the end of this, and these are my tidbits. My way of practicing agility, the way I drive agile culture, the way I drive the transformation and facilitate the adoption of that transformation, agile way of thinking and lean way of thinking, is by I run what is called agile basics. Forget about the buzzword, forget about the big words you see on LinkedIn or on whatever. You have a lot of things going on in Agile now. If you are engaged with a team or teams of teams, do it improve in simple form. Simplicity, right? Do the simple things, the basic things there for Agile, there for Scrum, the inspect, adapt, and transparency, the cornerstone of agility, right? So these are my simple tidbits I've put there for anybody that wants it. If you're starting, especially for green, a green project, a newbies and guys that don't even know what Agile is, and you're just taking them through the motions. This is the way to do it. Okay, simple things. You all know what this is. This is individual interactions with each other. Most important is the most important thing. That face-to-face interaction. You all know about that. The most effective means of communication. You've heard about that in your manifesto and blah blah blah. So where that comes into the current way, our current ways of working is in Zoom. Use your camera in Zoom. You will see people right now that, like the current person that is displaying right now, you will see a name and not a face. The entire idea of having a planning and coming together in a scrum and in a group, being co-located, is to have that face to face so we can read each other. What is the point of having a camera and not using it? Right? That's an anti-pattern. Okay, so the teams must be in constant state of collaborating. I think somebody was asking me today what collaboration is. Collaboration is what you do to foster the progress of the team. You're doing things together, you're working together, you're learning by osmosis, you're hanging. I know everything, the technical things I know about coding. I do that because I've been hanging with dev guys for so long. My knowledge is now, I gained that by osmosis, just hanging with these guys, right? If you're in the same war room, you're in the same, you're co-located in the same space, now you're co-located in the same online space, you need to be constantly collaborating with the customer, which gives us an opportunity to inspect our work. Yeah, the customer is very important. You're collaborating with the customer. How can you have issues when the customer is in front of you? You make a mistake, you go and ask the customer. You draw a simple line, you go and ask them, is that the right thing? That the customer is constantly giving you feedback, and this feedback must be short. If it's not short, there's a problem there, right? So it gives us an opportunity for inspection there. Have a plan, but don't that plan when there are disruptive changes. Like right now, you adapt by responding to the new reality, to the new circumstance or your reality. Yeah. Nobody's saying that people don't get it. They say they don't plan. No. You can plan. Planning is good. But what happens when you have disruptive changes, when things are happening and your paradigm is being shuffled the way that is not beneficial to you guys, right? Have anti-disruptive strategy in your organization, right? So you increase your innovation practices, you do your DevOps and all that kind of stuff. You add quality, you do all those lovely things that makes us prepared for disruption. The idea of agility is that when we implement something, when we decide something by 8 o'clock, it's in the hand of the customer by 6 o'clock. I think fashion industries do that very well. Okay. So respect the stakeholder, respect your colleagues, respect the leaders, respect the process. You cannot have trust without respect. You cannot cobble together your kumbaya moment in your retrospective without respect. When you respect somebody, show it. Talk to them with respect, behave and show that respect. It's very, very important. People, knowledge workers are not stupid. That hence the name, knowledge workers. They need to know that their job has purpose and you respect them. And when they're spending time with you in the organization, because you are the manager, doesn't mean you should talk down to them. Make sure you respect stakeholders, business stakeholders, respect the organization, respect your colleagues, respect the leaders, and respect your team, and respect the process. Openness, we talked about this, transparency. That doesn't mean that you should go to your HR department for agile HR guys and go and leak out your company secrets, right? That's not what we're talking about. It's about openness. All those things, you have some information that you think your team needs to know about to make the job easier, the tasks they are engaged with easier. You have the superior knowledge based on your experience. You let them know, you take them through 5 minutes and explain to them, and their coding becomes smooth at the end of the day. Okay, so these are what we kind of openness we are talking about. You create a learning environment, right? That's another means of openness. These are all those strong pillars of Scrum: respect, openness, commitment, focus, courage. There, right? I added these two there because for me, from my experience, when I take these people through this thing, this is where I get my agile maturity script from, mirroring the 12 principles. So we have the commitment thing there. Yeah, commit to goal and ensure continuous delivery. It's very difficult from very beginning. I know it is that when they say it in textbook, but that's not the way it is in real life. I struggle to find any new team, any new agile team that delivers. They have their thing done by the first few sprints. That's not going to happen. Yeah, after 6 months, yeah, after 3 months, if you're good, you start seeing that, you start meeting that. But at the end, when you say you're a mature agile team, you need to be meeting your goals and you need to ensure that you're continuously delivering. You can deliver at point notice like that. Okay, the thing flows. Acquire and use lean methods, system thinking, and all that. Focus on the work that goes without saying. Integrate your work codes frequently. This is part of those things that we on about content, continuous integration, continuous delivery. Continuous integration means if those guys are dealing with code, I don't want to spend too much time talking about IT guys because we are now moving now and trying to take all these things into other aspects of the organization. But in the IT environment, you need to ensure that you have some kind of practice that you are constantly integrating your code as they are done that day. That reduces the bugs and the chances of mistakes, and I think they call it spaghetti code. So yeah, that's that done. And courage. Now, this is one part I need to I need to explain to you guys. Now, courage means a lot of things for all those kind of people, but mainly in an agile environment, you should have the courage. When it is bad, you should have the courage to pivot. It's very, very difficult for most people. When it's bad, you should have the courage to pivot. Do not blame demons and your enemies for your failures. Fail fast, fail safe is part of life. It's part of life in agile community, in agile world. Do not, as Nigerians and Africans and Middle Easterns, do not blame your colleague. The blame game kills trust. It destroys teams. And worse, do not become too religious and say it's your enemies or spiritual demons. I have literally had it by serious people that went to school with me complain and say that their manager is demonic. Okay, these are all just stupid things that don't work. It will never work. It's just another excuse for master blaming his tools for not giving him the results and he wants. Okay, instead, learn from your mistakes and pivot if you need to pivot. Do better next time, and from the knowledge you've gained. This one is very important here as the people for product teams. you need to put in quality very, very early. Okay. And the best way to do that is to make sure that we have robust testing regimes, and we know how to refactor very well. We are doing very robust testing methodologies like TDD. We are doing peer programming and all that kind of stuff that makes our testing robust. Okay. And the other thing that I'm sure the guys that are DevOps here will understand is the incorporating DevOps practices. Nowadays, we cannot do without DevOps, right? If you say you are done, then your customers at the end of the day must have the product at your planned release. There's no point in saying done when it's just it's sitting somewhere in a repository. The finished code is sitting somewhere in a repository, but it's not being released to the customer. That doesn't work. Okay, in a mature agile team, done means done. You've done the work and you've been released. It is going through and it's scheduled for the planned release. Whether you're releasing quarterly or every month, Google has told us that they release every day, so that's good for them. But it must be that's done means that is you start it, you finish, and it's in the hand of the customer. Right, that's about it. I hope I ran this thing on time, and yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Victor. Really, you
Thank you,
really
Jane.
struck a lot of bulbs in my head. I'm sure you did for the rest of the team,
Thank you.
especially with the cultural talks. And you had me rolling at the
Yeah,
demon
I
statements.
know.
All right. Before we go into the QA, big thank you to you, Victor, for taking the time to go through everything that you've gone through these slides. Very, very informative. Very, very it's mind opening, right, and thought provoking. That's how I felt. I'm sure the rest of the team feels the same way. This webinar was brought to you by Agile Africa, founded by Anu Gopal. She couldn't make it here because she had a speaking event, so she couldn't make it here, but she appreciates everyone that's on here. And I just wanted to say a big thank you to her for creating this platform for us to have people like Victor come and share from their wealth of knowledge. So thank you so much, Anu. Thank you, Victor, once again. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna go ahead and go through the chat and just bring up some questions. Is that okay? We can take the next 15 minutes to go over the questions in the chat box.
I'm ready.
Great. All right. The first question I see on here is, let's see. Oh, somebody had a question about starting with prayer. Okay, who's paying for that time, for that prayer time, and who's checking the clock, right? I'm sure that was rhetoric. So you have a comment about that?
That's a very good question. Well, I mean, if you tell me that you intend to start keeping time, and you're worried and concerned about who is paying for it, then you are being agile. I don't think these people think about that. They go into a mode and they think everything is prayer now because of what is happening. People, I think, with circumstance we find ourselves, Africans have found themselves because of bad leaders and all that. I don't want to go into that, but it's a spiritual thing, which a personal thing, which they bring into what is supposed to be a secular organization, and it's permeating into the organization, and it's creating a lot of wasting time. So if you times the salaries of everybody in that team, times, even if that prayer meeting was for 5 minutes, and you pay these guys, say for example, you pay them $100 a day, and there are 7 to 9 of them, times what is 5 minutes off of 160? That's the money the organization has wasted, that has not gone into working for in the office working time, the business time, that they've lost because they are being religious, right? There's nothing wrong in that. Like I said before, it is at first sight, at first glance, it looks like waste, until you look at it and you see what if this particular team is well bonded and they are actually engaging themselves because of that prayer meeting. Say they get themselves whipped up for 30 minutes and everybody's all jazzed up and yeah, in the name of Jesus, and they go and straight and start doing work. Wow, that for me, I wouldn't touch that team. That thing has to go, but I'll leave it. Especially like I said, in a startup, when your your main concern is about budget. You have a very tight budget, and you need to deliver quick wins for your customers or for your sponsors. You know, you don't as a pragmatic agilist, you don't go and disrupt that kind of fine and team bonding, right? So no matter how they get their desire from coffee or from Jesus, that's fine. Although it needs to go, but let it tail itself off as a mature and introduce all this kind of agile way of thinking, so they know. And because if you go in and tell them that you have a massive pushback, and that pushback will not be good for your own contract if it becomes a total showstopper, right? So that's it.
Okay, I guess in support of that, thank you so much for that response. In support of that statement, I have a comment on here by Mojala. It says, it's called reflection, not particularly prayer. I don't see anything wrong with that. And she went further to say she does this with her team, and anyone who wants to leave is welcome to leave. And anyone who wants to stay and be part of the reflection is welcome to stay as well.
Okay, that's very good.
Another comment on here from Femi says, in a multi-faith setting, do we pray to every supreme being, including Ifa and Obatala? So I think that's
the complication that comes
Exactly.
that comes with that kind of habit, right? You know, because in some cases where you have Muslims, I have heard some, especially in Central Bank Abuja, where the Muslim guys find, you know, it creates an angst, and that is what we are talking to. The lady that said you call it reflection if it's good for the team and all the team agrees to it. You have to have buy-in from the team. But these are 2 or 3 people, or one person even that doesn't flow with that, doesn't like it, you can raise it up in HR, and HR will tell you what has that got to do with anything. You know, so whether you're reflecting or you're praying, whatever, if it's helping the team, fine. You know, and if you want to work with people, a few people take the time and do it together, yeah, that's fine. I want to take, but you have to remember you are using organization time. And if your manager, even though in Agile we don't tell you how to do the work, but if you are engaged in those kind of things and it doesn't flow with you, and doesn't see why you're doing it, that's going to cause a bit of an issue. Okay. But I don't have a problem if it's adding to the bonding of the team, right? So yeah.
And that's the whole essence of agility, right? Yeah. All right. On here, Mary said R.A.T.S is so apt.
Thank you.
I guess she's giving some kudos. Thanks, there.
Mary. Yeah. And I need to, I think, is that Mary or Mary Lanier? Yes. Yes. So the lady the Professor Sophie, I think I need to give a shout out to my colleague Mary. This is the woman that first agilist in the world carried out a online session in Pidgin English, right? I mean, even BBC recognizes the value of transmitting in local. They're getting volumes. The 2 years they've been transmitting. BBC have been transmitting for 2 years now in Pidgin English in Nigeria, and the volumes are incredible. And this is what I'm talking about: the advantage of speaking mother tongue. It's easier for people to now engage, right? As Mary is one of those people, I think last year or early this year, that carried out a full session in Pidgin English, because I think most of our delegates were from Africa and Nigeria. So well done, Mary.
That's a good one.
Let's keep that
thank you,
campaign
Mary.
going.
All right. Mary says it's better to stay clear. I'm guessing she's talking about the prayer. And Femi says prayer can be done after the ceremony, or that they can have it before the meeting, but not during the meeting.
Thank you. I knew you understand.
All right. He says he wants to. That's okay. He said he wants to ask a question regarding diversity and inclusion and what the impact of language will be. That's a good one. Do you want to come on, Femi?
Yes, I'd love to do that, actually.
Okay.
For those who know me, I'm very hot when it comes to choice of language. And I mean no disrespect, because I understand from an African point of view, we tend to use the male persona. So we tend to say the he quite a lot. And we also tend to be very selfish. If you have 10 Nigerians in a gathering, and you have 2 Yoruba people, they will speak Yoruba.
Yes.
Regardless of anybody else there. They will just automatically assume that everybody else has to be Yoruba and understand Yoruba.
Yeah.
And we are challenging those stereotypes. Yeah. We are raising the awareness that, guys, or folks, see, I just said it there, guys, we should raise the awareness that, folks, let's not just make those assumptions. Let's challenge those assumptions. Let's just not say he all the time. Let's recognize the he and the she. And let's also recognize that there are other faiths aside from the Christian faith. There are people of no faith.
Yeah.
They can stay there whilst the worship or reflection is taking place.
Yep.
They can meditate. They can use it as a moment of silence. At the end of the day, whether we call it worshiping Ogun, worshiping Obatala, worshiping Ifa, worshiping Orunmila, for the benefit of Ian Gill, these are just various deities that people worship. So they're just moments of reflection, and people have the opportunity to participate or to just observe.
Okay.
I personally don't see anything wrong
Me too.
in reflection moments, but as long as it's not done when the clock starts.
Thank you. Absolutely agree with you. I mean, that's the same line. I think, Mary, there was a line with your thought, because as Agilists, we are thinking about lean, we are thinking about waste. Is this invaluable? Should we be doing this now? We have the most expensive constraint in our life is time. It's the only thing you can't, no matter how rich you are. So people jealously guide their time, right? So if we have all these knowledge workers who are paying so much, I don't think there's any manager that will be very pleased that wants to deliver something and you are telling him you're praying. He will tell you to say, okay, go pay yourself now. So it's a very delicate thing. But for me, I would suggest that if whatever you are doing reflection, you are praying, make sure the team are with you, because if it causes an angst where we need teams to work together as one, that's the problem. And that, especially for something we don't need in that secular environment. So there's a room for more debate, but it's always better to measure the progress by which debate or which idea gives us the highest value, as we do.
So, Victor.
1 second.
Okay.
Is it this particular topic?
Yeah, I just wanted
I'm reading through the questions.
I wanted to ask Victor something.
Okay.
Sure, go ahead.
I mean, Femi raised a very salient point, and you also mentioned about the manager. So let's go back to Nigeria. We're talking about Nigeria is one of our focus, most of us here. And I know there are other countries, but whatever happens,
that's fine.
Happens in most other countries.
Yep.
So what happens when I worked in a bank in Nigeria and I had a manager who actually led the prayers? So what happened if it's actually the manager who is the proponent of the fellowship in the morning? And I'll give you a case in time. We had fellowships in the morning, every morning. Immediately he came in as a bank manager, he introduced early morning devotion. That's what we call it. Now there are Muslims in there. It's called early morning devotion. There are Muslims in there who are forced to attend this early morning devotion.
Right.
So what happens to that aspect? Because there are so many intricacies we can talk about this.
I know.
But we also have to deal with the elephant in the room.
Okay. The elephant in the room is very, very clear for every African. And this is what I suggest you do. So if you as an agile coach are going to take that kind of organization or that kind of team through your agile process, this is why we have working reference. What's the thing we draft in the beginning of the
working agreement?
Working agreement.
Team working agreement.
Team working agreements, right? So, and this is why we also take leaders. When we take leaders through their own journey, we separate them from the teams and we take them through, because if you are going to take them through an agile journey, the leader must understand these things. You cannot be enforcing, and I'm sure if you have a Muslim person there's an angst every single time you take him through, unless you've converted and brainwashed him to become a Christian. Every single time you force somebody that is not a Christian into that, there's an angst that builds up. You don't want that in an agile team. So if this organization because we're talking about agile here, is going through an agile journey, and you yourself, you are the agile coach, I would suggest you first of all take the leaders go have an open session where you take them through their own education of an agile way of doing things, and make sure you have for all teams a working agreement, because that is one thing in all of our playbooks. You must make sure, because when you get to that stage where if you yourself, you should have weighed it, where you now know that to enforce on that kind. But it's always good for the team if they now say, okay, we want prayer in our working agreement. What are you going to do as an agile coach? And you just, okay, if it works for you guys, but you need to enforce the fact. We need to let them know that is jumping at. But like many of you are brought here now, that it's better for you to take that time off from the working time because HR will complain even if it's agile and they have agreed. So you, like you said, there are a lot of intricacies inside this thing. Even if it's agile, HR will still complain. So these are ways, there are various ways to look at it. And as an agile coach, look into your playbook and deal with the circumstance you meet there. Does that make sense?
Thank you, Mr. Gordon, for that question. All right, so for the sake of time, I'm just going to read through this. Miss Mary said the English language has created a huge barrier and wastage of human capital in Nigeria. I'm going to read a couple of questions that relate to language as well. The questions say, wouldn't this promote tribalism? And then Mr. Femi added, exactly my thinking. Will this exclude others? Because I think you were talking about language, having the meetings in different languages. And he's saying that wouldn't this practice exclude others? Will this cause an impediment of divisiveness? Okay. Or can the team work around it?
Of course, the team can work around it. That's a very good question. So this language thing, it depends on where you are at. Like, so if we have the regional areas. So if you're in Enugu and in one Aba town, you bet say the people working in that organization, especially government, they are all 90% above. Now, if you now have one person that is an Ijaw guy there that doesn't understand Igbo, it doesn't make sense now for all of you to start talking in Igbo language, right? Because of the agile thing, we're all inclusive and all that. But what we do have in Africa is a common pidgin English, which the Indians have. The Indians do very, very well. They have a very common street Hindi that they all speak. There's a bit of a broken English in that. We have a broken English. Why don't we speak that? Why don't you say that instead of insulting or making fun of people that speak broken English, or they've gone to school but they don't have they're not too astute in grammar in their grammar structure. Instead of making fun of them, accept them for what they are, because they are more relaxed when they are communicating to you. They will say more, and that is what we want in a team. And you have to remember, we're talking about teams, right? So if one person doesn't speak the language, that's an issue. You have to pivot and think of something else. If it's not a problem for them, that's fine. But because it's language that you're communicating with, you need to think about your circumstance, right? It is not these suggestions here today are not a set in stone suggestion. Like I said, you deal with your reality, what you see. You have your common sense there, but you also you're driven by the agile principles and agile way of doing things. And there are time-tested, industry-tested ways of doing things that if you follow it to achieve value. Based on where we are. So you pragmatically layer your playbook with what works, not just agile by the playbook, okay? So that's the suggestion I'm giving. I'm not saying we'll be right here, but we think that you need to pragmatically look at the circumstance in which you are and design your playbook based on that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for that response. All right, I'm going to read some comments here. Africa, realistically, it's a construct of the mind. I think you're talking about the African time. We Africans allow it to happen. We hide behind it, and it's a manifestation of other wider issues. Yes, the next comment here says, from Susan, says the French may have invented that and shouldn't throw stones. Okay, you have to get late to parties, arriving in style. Okay, fashionably late.
That's so true.
All right, here the custom of result of people taking comfort in aligning with people of their kind. Homophily. There's a link in there. If anyone wants to read more about that, you can copy that link. Let's see here. Chichi says, the African culture has always promoted secrecy, even outside the workplace. We've been taught to keep our business and issues to ourselves until there are results, a culture of not asking for help.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think, you could break this can reach out to so many other things, especially culturally.
Totally.
For us. So yeah, Scrum value equals commitment. Okay. Thank you, Victor. Thank you so much, Victor. Thank you so much, Victor. Okay, so there's a question here that I want to read. It says, I'm interested in learning more about this Agile. What resources will you recommend? Agile concept, or please, okay, yeah. It says, what resources will you recommend?
Oh, I mean me. I mean, get in touch with me. You know, I'll use this to sell myself. Get in touch with us. I have a Wakandagility thing going on there. So we have a few people that will help you. Just we'll help each other out. Yeah, get in touch. Get my at victorwakandagility.com. We'll talk about it. It's no
You're
biggie.
speaking too much English. Wakandagility.com, right?
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about, my sister.
All right. Let me read more comments here. As I mentioned earlier, that will work in a mono-religious culture, but not in Africa where there are multiple faiths. Okay, this is regarding the prayer or no prayer thing. Let's see here. It says, thanks, Victor, for language having a heterogeneous society. For language having a heterogeneous society with a lot of languages and tongues, introducing a local language might bring a lot of challenge.
Yes.
The next comment here says, how does one break the African time syndrome? For in-person meetings, people blame traffic. How about lateness to Zoom meetings? That's a good point, right?
That's a good point. That's a good point. The way we are heading now, I mean, you know, new ways of working.
All right. And then another comment here says, what countries besides Nigeria and Africa or Middle East have A.P.I.A. and R.A.T.S been applied and results observed? This is from Nigel.
Yes, I'm getting survey questions, and I'm meeting with a few chaps constantly from Dubai. As a company, I cannot name the name of the company because for legal reasons, because these are very crude methods I'm using at the moment, right? But the reports I'm getting are very live. They are very, very, very live indeed. So, but there are aspects of, for example, in the Middle East where you're talking about guys that are working in a bank without having to give much. You have agile teams in the bank and with the Western people that go there and they're surprised that they are not optimized for within their coding structure for interest rate measurements, right? And you're saying, you know, and that was mainly driven by religious practices. You are not going to go there and start preaching to them. That's a core cultural thing that has got religious aligning lineage. The idea that culture was due to their religious practice and religious principles, right? You're not going to come and start changing 2,000 years old or 1,000 years culture. They'll most probably do funny things to you. So you don't touch all those aspects because we are doing A.P.I.A.M thing here. We need to be very careful about the religious aspects that we touch and we talk about when we are taking organizations through their journeys, right? You're not going to start talking to leaders about this. So why don't you look into that? No. So we need to be very careful. We are talking about those aspects of the religion itself that affects agile practices in the main. Now, if it turns out that it's one of those things that we're talking about that is ingrained in their core religious, because you're in a religious country, I would suggest you leave it alone. Have a walk around. If no walk around, accept it as a loss and move on.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right, the next comment here, we're almost done. It says, I believe the bottom line of prayer, reflection time is not to abuse it by taking so much time, and we need to be mindful of time and make sure we are not imposing it on other individuals. Besides working hours, we have a lot of time to pray during our free time at home.
Yes.
Perfectly said. The other comment here, it says, lateness to Zoom meetings may be spiritual. That's
a good one.
Okay. And then it says, but why pray in a business setting? How is that bringing value to clients?
You'll be surprised.
Good question.
You'll be surprised, like what Godwin said, when these prayers themselves are driven by managers. You'll be surprised, yeah? So it's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. So it's one of those things we've recognized. And there are ways you can deal with it. From my point of view, you first of all look at it. Don't rush quickly and say, no, you want to use the sort of Archangel Michael to disrupt what is already happening. Look at this team. If they are functioning well and they are gelling, look at the need to deliver low-hanging fruits and deliver quickly to the unit. So you need to have the ear of the leaders and what is happening in the kitchen. Put this team together and pragmatically make a decision on how to design your playbook. Okay, it's not everything you want to disrupt. I want to show off that, because there are many agilists that do that. They want to quickly bring agile practice and agile, and they ignore how ingrained this culture, especially the external culture, is in the teams, and that's a big mistake. And you have pushback, and pushback can be so extreme. So extreme, it becomes a showstopper for your contract, and that is not good, is it?
Yeah, not good. Thank you for that response. All right, the next statement here is, I just want to propose a book to help break the African secrecy syndrome. It's called The Go-Giver by Bob Berg. So you guys can read that. You can look in the chat box and you can see that and copy it if you're interested.
If you share the name on the chat, we'll send it out to everybody.
It says The Go-Giver by Bob Berg and John David Mann. Okay, this is an amazing book that has powerful information on value and success. Can the Agile team give each team member a prayer in their own beliefs? Time. That's all I can say.
Okay.
All right, let's see here. All right, I think those are all the comments here. Somebody says, I believe prayer helps to boost actions already taken, not to help you do what has not been done. So get the work done, then pray briefly.
Good.
Has there been a proof the prayer has helped production in an agile team? But that's the same thing you're saying.
So I'm not too sure about the spiritual aspect of it, because I can't say about that, but I know about the psychological aspect of it, because no matter, it's like what Femi was saying, Mr. Adelusi was saying, no matter what you're doing, whether you are chanting, you're in the mosque, I've been in mosques, I've been in a Sikh mosque, it's very pristine, quiet, and you can transform, whatever helps you, blend with the team, engage with the team, add value to the team, to what we are doing, helping us delivering at the end of the iteration, helping us getting done, helping us reducing mood, reducing waste, and making us function as a cross-functional, valuable, agile team is good. So,
sorry, Victor. I was going to quickly chip in. I don't think the prayers have anything to do with the team itself. It's about the individuals as people. And when we go to work as people, we want fulfillment. So the prayer that's taking place at work is nothing to do with the business. It's just about the people as individuals. They bring themselves to work. Yeah. So to some extent, we need to accommodate it. Yes. We need to allow them to be themselves, especially when we start getting into the coaching arena, when we focus on the person. If someone comes to you for coaching and they start telling you about their challenges for faith, you're not going to tell them there's no such thing as faith. Nah. You have to recognize their faith.
So the point I was making was, there was one I was making was if you really want me to start going into using our industry term, is the outcome of the prayer process itself. So if this team come together and in that moment, they are in a solemn 5 minutes moment, that the outcome of that moment where they are talking to their God or doing whatever or chanting, and that process itself, the outcome is that at the end, it makes them gel and work with, and they trust each other. It has created a bonding process where they trust each other. This is the kind of things we Agile coaches like to see, because to create a space, a safe space, you have to, it's a space of trust. Trust is one of those elements that make a team work well as an Agile team, and so that they'll start expressing themselves individually and trusting each other and working for each other, right? So one of those good things about a good Agile team is about trust. So if this prayer can make them bond well as a team, and you can see the outcome on a daily process, they prayed 9:30 in the morning for 5 minutes, and it works all the way, and they're saying that in the name of Jesus. So I don't care, as long as it works, you can see that bonding. Do not go there with your Agile book and start saying, no, you should need to stop this. It will cause an almighty pushback that may become a showstopper for you yourself. So I'm saying, and I'm suggesting that it depends on the organization, it depends on the product matrix where you guys are trying to do. It depends on the kind of organization, the kind of team, especially in a startup team where you need to see quick goals. Don't touch it, leave it, because you can see the outcome is positive, is adding to those things that put value to the attainment of their goals. Leave it. Then as they mature, you need to start telling them through your brown bag sessions and your committee of whatever they call it, COPs. You start telling them, look, this is the way we should do it. We need to do that prayer thing, but as you go, just minimize it, or you do it in private until you eliminate it. Because in the end, it's still waste, but it is the outcome of that process. Is that 5 minutes process is making them gel in an early. New teams don't gel the way they make it in textbooks now. But if you have this team gelling well, that's I think it's value add.
Okay, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for your time. Drop in the chat box how you felt about this this webinar, this session, and just give a shout out to Victor for giving us all this time.
Thank you guys. Namaste.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This was very informative. I'll be going and looking up Wakandagility.com. And tell us, where else can we find you? Before everyone drops off, where else can we find you, Victor?
Go to my website, mate.
Can you share your website again?
Q platform, the qplatform.com, wakandagility.com. So you can catch me. I'm a very avid blogger on LinkedIn. Recently, for the past year or so, I don't know, it's because I've been at home now. So we blog a lot in LinkedIn. So I'm on LinkedIn as well. Yeah. Let's chat.
Right.
Any questions? We deal with it.
Jane,
Thanks, guys. Namaste. It's been a pleasure.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Can we drop his contact to the chat?
Yes, definitely.
Let me do that now. Just simply Victor at
All right. Thank you all so much for joining. This was informational and inspiring also. So thank you, Victor. We definitely appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
All
Thanks
right.
for having me. Thank you very much.
Well,
thanks, Jane.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.